Over the weekend, Israel killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Now, from what I understand, he is a pretty big deal in Lebanon. Some people have compared him to Malcolm X. The assassination of Nasrallah has really brought things to an ultimate level of escalation. And I told you that Israel has continued to escalate this war, and the U.S. has supported that escalation. So they killed him, and then it was announced that they were going to do a ground invasion of Lebanon, just like they did of Gaza. So they basically have been following that same playbook from Gaza, and they followed that for Lebanon. Let's go ahead and get to this story, and then we're going to tell you what is happening now with Iran. It's crazy times, folks.
Carefully for Iran's threatened retaliation for Nasrallah's death and the possibility that Israel could move ground forces into Lebanon. Joining me now to discuss, White House National Security's communications advisor, Admiral John Kirby. Admiral, thanks for joining us. So, first of all, is President Biden glad that Israel took this action?
I don't think anybody's mourning the loss of Mr. Nasrallah, a known terrorist, a guy with American blood on his hands as well as Israeli blood on his hands.
Interesting. He wants to bring up that Nasrallah has American blood on his hands, but he's not going to mention that Israel also does too. There have been a number of Americans that the IDF has killed. The most recent one we talked about on this show, she was Turkish American. The Biden administration didn't really want to give the same type of kudos towards her family as they have to Israeli American families that have lost family members in Israel or Gaza or at the hands of the IDF, etc. So it's obvious here that the U.S. government is on Israel's side, but is not just only on Israel's side, but that the U.S. government is backing a supremacist state, a supremacist apartheid state. And John Kirby, when he says, well, I don't think Joe Biden is, unhappy that he's gone. I think this is a win. The U.S. government supported Israel escalating tension with Lebanon. They supported this. Not only did they support it again, they had just given Israel another weapons package for them to continue to do what they're doing. And whether it has been the ICJ, whether it has been other Western allies that have said, listen, Israel was out of control, we have to stop sending them weapons, the U.S. government till this day has continued to back an apartheid state. And that is how we got here. Because the reality is, if it is not for U.S. weapons, we would not be here. If the U.S. government would have held Netanyahu accountable when the ICJ told them to, we would not be here. So everyone has to understand that. Let's continue.
And this is a terrorist organization. He was the leader of it. And I think people are safer without him walking around. But they'll try to recover. We're watching to see what they do to try to fill this leadership vacuum. It's going to be tough. That much of their command structure has now been wiped out.
So is it going to be tough? Now, that was the statement from John Kirby after Nasrallah was killed. Again, I told you I've spoken to people who are Lebanese Americans, and they have said that to them, like to some of them, they see him as like their Malcolm X. So you have to understand they do not have the same view of Hezbollah that the West does. They see them as a form of resistance. Without the occupation, without the oppression from the state of Israel, you don't get Hezbollah. Same thing with Gaza. You don't get a Hamas without the occupation and without the oppression. These same people like John Kirby, Kamala Harris, we're going to get to her statement in just a second, and Joe Biden, these same people who sit up there and say that you are wrong to defend yourself from Israel, those same people would have had a problem with the Haitian Revolution. Those same people would have had a problem with any slave revolt in history. Because the people who were occupied, the people who were oppressed, the people who were abused, they rose up against the powers that be and fought back. So to that same logic, they would have had a problem with that. Now, Kamala Harris issued a statement, and she's getting a lot of heat from this. Yeah, we don't even want to look at the comments. It's pretty bad. Shout out to Read Abolish Rent for this. New statement from Kamala Harris includes unwavering commitment to the security of Israel. You gotta see this for yourself, folks. Hassan Nasrallah was a terrorist with American blood on his hands. Does that sound familiar? See how they all have the same talking points, the same PR talking points? Isn't that what John Kirby just said? These people don't think for themselves. They have a team of people who write up something and they repeat the same thing. Across decades, his leadership of Hezbollah destabilized the Middle East and led to the killing of countless innocent people in Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and around the world. Today, Hezbollah's victims have a measure of justice. Now, here's what I can say here. Didn't Israel do this? Didn't Israel kill innocent people in Lebanon and Syria? Let's add Gaza to that list as well, and also add the West Bank. But you would never see Kamala Harris or most of the politicians in DC, by the way, issue this same type of statement about Israel because they're all paid for. They're all bought by the Israeli lobby. Here's the crazier part. I have unwavering commitment to the security of Israel. I will always support Israel's right to defend itself against Iran and Iran-backed terrorist groups such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. So for the people who are Democrats who supported Palestinians fighting back against Israel and the apartheid and the occupation and the oppression, who continued to tell me over and over again, give Kamala a chance. We can push her left. These are the same people that told you that you could push Joe Biden left. Kamala Harris has moved to the right on certain policies, even to the right of George W. Bush, which I'm going to show you in just a second. That's how horrible the Democratic Party has become. They lost the working class. They're losing Black voters. Also, they can align themselves with Goldman Sachs, Wall Street, and the military-industrial complex. She goes on to say, President Biden and I do not see the conflict in the Middle East escalate into a broader regional war. They don't want to see it escalate into a broader regional war. But she just told you she supports Israel's right to defend itself. And they are giving Israel the weapons. And Israel has been the aggressor. Israel attacked Lebanon first. Israel imprisoned Palestinians first. Israel kicks Palestinian people out of their homes and steals their homes and their lands. They have always been the aggressor, ladies and gentlemen. We have been working on a diplomatic solution along with Israel-Lebanon border so that people can safely return home on both sides of that border. Diplomacy remains the best path forward to protect civilians and achieve lasting stability in the region. That is the statement from Kamala Harris. Stop telling me that you can move her left on this issue. I'm tired of it, especially when you compare her to what George Bush did. Now, listen to this. In 2002, George Bush strongly condemned Israel for killing Hamas top militant because 14 civilians were killed in the same strike. Israel didn't dare call those victims human shields. Compare this to Biden and Harris reveling in Israel's slaughter of 300 civilians to get Nasrallah. Don't believe me? Here it is here. White House rebukes Israel for the attack, calls it heavy-handed. This was July 23rd of 2002. President Bush issued one of his sharpest rebukes against Israel today, denouncing as heavy-handed the attack that killed a Hamas leader and expressing regret over the loss of innocent life. So here you have Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who are now to the right of George Bush on Israel. I can't make this up. And some of my haters, they'll see this and they'll clip it and say, oh, see, I told you, look, she's right wing. Look, da da da. No, I'm not right wing. You're just in a cult. Never let yourself like someone so much or want to like someone so much that you can't admit when they're wrong. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are wrong. And I've said the same thing about Donald Trump. They're wrong. The majority of the politicians who are taking money from AIPAC and from J Street, from the Israeli lobby to defend Israel at all costs, to defend the genocide, to give us these little pep talks about we're pushing for a ceasefire. These people are liars. They've been playing you since day one. And I told you, Israel's plan was always to capture the entire region. Netanyahu said it in front of the UN when he held up those two pictures and he said the curse and the blessing. He wants them gone because he wants the land, and they want the land so they can build the land bridge from Europe going through the Middle East to Asia. That's what they want. This is what they wanted. And I don't know how many times Israel, the IDF, Netanyahu can say this so blatantly to people for everyone to get it. So I don't care if you like bathtub greens. I don't care if you like this woman. Whether you like her or not, when she is wrong, you need to say that she is wrong. So she's to the right of George Bush on Israel and Ronald Reagan. When Ronald Reagan said this is too much with Israel, he told Israel to stop it, and it was done. Israel was bombing Lebanon then. This is not new. This has been going on. And now the unthinkable has happened. Now, after Israel killed one of the Hamas leaders in Iran, a lot of people expected Iran to respond back. They didn't respond. They've actually been kind of patient. But now, after they have killed Hezbollah leader Nasrallah, now Iran has decided to hit back. The warning came out earlier that they believed that Iran was preparing to attack. Listen to this.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, we do have breaking news, perhaps very important breaking news, stemming from the tension, the conflict in the Middle East right now. Israel launched ground incursions into Lebanon overnight, targeting Hezbollah, the terror group that operates inside Lebanon. We are getting a sense this morning that Hezbollah, which is a client of Iran, may be about to get assistance from Iran itself. I believe CNN's Arlette Saenz is ready at the White House for us. Arlette, the White House has new concerns about what Iran may be about to do. What are you learning?
Yes, John, a senior White House official is telling us that the U.S. believes that Iran may imminently launch a ballistic missile against Israel. I want to read you a quote that we have from a senior White House official who says the United States has indications that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. We are actively supporting defensive preparations to defend Israel against this attack. A direct military attack from Iran against Israel will carry severe consequences for Iran. Now, this comes as U.S. officials had some concern that Iran might try to launch some type of a retaliatory attack against Israel in the wake of Israel's killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah.
And they have. And they have. And I don't think people fully understand, but Iran has weapons to the point, like, we do not want to go to war with Iran. So Iran did respond, since nobody else wants to hold Israel accountable. Iran says it launched a barrage of missiles at Israel in response to the assassinations of senior Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iranian officials, sending Israelis rushing to bomb shelters and raising fears of an all-out war in the region. Alarms sounded across Israel, and explosions could be heard in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv during the attack on Tuesday. I have seen the videos on social media. You can see them as well. I can't play them on here, but you can see them. Israel does have the Iron Dome, but I saw quite a bit of those missiles get through and hit targets. Now, which targets did they hit? Here are some of them. Listen to this.
The U.S. intel view that among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area.
In the northern part of Tel Aviv, they hit Mossad. Now, he goes on to say, I can't play that here because it shows a strike, but he went on to say after that, that it was in a densely, populated area and there are civilians there. But to that same logic, right, that would mean that Netanyahu and the IDF are using the Israeli civilians as human shields. No? Isn't that what they say about Hamas? Isn't that what they say about Hezbollah? They're hiding behind the people. Now they have bomb shelters. I've seen the videos as well. They've gone to bomb shelters in Israel. There are no bomb shelters in Gaza. They don't have them. The Palestinian people have no bomb shelters that they can run to and hide from. They're stuck. When Israel launched the ground invasion, right before that, they sent out a notice that you need to evacuate. I believe it was like 26 towns asking them to evacuate. But then people in Lebanon were saying, once they were told to evacuate in certain exit ports, that those areas were blocked off. Does that sound familiar? If it does, it's because Israel did the same thing in Gaza. They announced it's time to go. You have to evacuate. Here are the areas you can go to leave. And then Palestinians got there and the areas were blocked off because they don't want them to leave. They want to kill them. So once again, that is deliberate attacks we have seen over and over when it comes to Israel. Now, there have been a number of times people have told me on this show that they don't care about foreign policy, that it doesn't affect them. They only care about what is happening right here. Well, let me show you how it's going to affect you. This was already reported immediately. S&P 500 falls. Look at this. Everyone pay attention because this will impact you. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 173.18 points or 0.41%. Already. West Texas Intermediate crude oil spiked after the IDF said Iran was firing missiles at the country. Do you know what that means? That means if this continues, and Iran has officially declared war on Israel, by the way, if this continues, that means we're going to have another oil problem. Now let's put two and two together, folks. The dock workers just went on strike. Give it into 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at some serious problems. Shortages of supplies, but also fuel, which means you're not going to have gas for your car, or gas is going to be very expensive. Now you have another oil situation because of the war with Israel and Iran. This is how it will affect you. This is why I always say you have to connect foreign policy to domestic policy. What happens abroad does impact us here. We all saw this when the war started with Russia and Ukraine. And speaking of Russia and Ukraine, whose side do you think Russia is going to be on? Do you think Russia is going to be on our side? You think Russia is going to be on Israel's side? Hell no. The Biden administration right now, they have already sent in U.S. troops to help Israel fight. This is why I told you months ago, if you're in the military and you can get out, get out. This is why Aaron Bushnell did what he did. This is why I told you, don't let your kids join the military. And if you still don't believe that this is going to impact you, I want you to think about your children. Because you see, now that the draft Selective service is automated. Remember, they voted on this. It's automated. That means you're talking about your kids. Your kids could be drafted. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. So if you have a 5-year-old, think about 12 years from now, 13 years from now. They are low on recruitment. They've been low. The military numbers are in the toilet. And they want to send your kids, your brother, your sister, your friends to go fight with an apartheid, supremacist, racist state and kill brown people abroad. And don't just think it'll stop with Lebanon and Iran. They want all of it. There's already calls of fear in Jordan. Turkey's leader has spoken out and said Israel must be stopped. He said, I call on the other allies to help. He said, this is ridiculous. I don't know about you, but I didn't want us to go to war with Iran. That's insane. What happened? How did we get here? You know how we got here? The US government decided quite a number of years ago that they were going to sell their politicians to the Israeli lobby and that they would do whatever they can for the state of Israel. They won't even do what they can for you. They won't give you health care. They won't. You're sleeping on the street. You're getting evicted. They don't want to help you, but they're willing to do whatever they can for Israel. Their support for Israel is unwavering, they tell you. When do they tell you that their support is unwavering for you? When? And there's a number of people that are afraid to call out Israel for what they are doing. And I call you punks. I call you cowards. Because you can't criticize this supremacist state. And that is a problem. What Israel is doing, whether it's the genocide in Gaza, carpet bombing people in Beirut in residential areas, they are a threat to the world, not just Gaza, not just Lebanon. By the way, people who are trying to flee Israel right now, where do you think they are coming? They are coming here. This government sold its soul. And I'm thinking about the past couple of years in this country. It's been a mess. It's been a mess. I cannot imagine being a teenager going through the pandemic, not being able to have a graduation, not being able to see your friends, not being able to date anybody, going through that and the lockdowns. Then you leave that. Then you come into Israel and Russia and Ukraine. Unemployment surges, evictions. The homelessness rate increases 25% under the Biden administration. I cannot imagine being 18, 19, a young adult at this time right now. I couldn't imagine because you haven't gotten a break. This is insane. What has happened to this country? What is happening under this administration? And people need to call it out. I don't give a damn if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent or whether you care about voting at all. The past 4 years have been hell, especially if you are a young adult. These kids have no future. None. But people are so, oh, you might get Trump. Oh, it could be worse. You could get them. What do you mean it could be worse? It's already worse. What are you talking about? How many more people does Israel have to kill? How many more civilians? How many more people in this country? They didn't even want to give you health care during a pandemic. Does everybody understand this? So so-called progressives didn't even want to give you health care, fight for you to give you health care during a pandemic. These people don't care about you. These people care about their pockets. They care about their careers. That's what they care about. And you have people want to get mad at us, those of us who want to vote third party. Get out of here. Stop it with the, you might get this person, you might get that person. It don't matter. You know why? It don't matter if you get Trump. It don't matter if you get Kamala, because Israel still wins and we still lose. There needs to be a serious movement in this country to get corporate money out of electoral politics.